Thank you so much, Nadine, Lena, and Eva, for agreeing to participate in our Careers Ed Day. The conversation for this panel is on marketing and copy. So we're coming at it from a pretty diverse angles here, from journalism to environmentally related print. That's, I guess, the best I can describe your work, Eva, to marketing management. So I guess just to kick off this conversation, would you guys each want to introduce yourself and what you currently do? And Nadine, I feel like you need no introduction, but would you like to go first?
Yes, of course I will. Welcome, everybody. So I'm Nadine Baggett. I've been a journalist for over 30 years, and I've sort of got a backward career to most people in the sense that I did a general university degree, I did a science degree, and then left and sort of was a little bit lost, unlike most children today who were forced into making career decisions very early. I was in my early 20s, and I was freelancing at various different offices, and I ended up in a magazine and suddenly realized this light bulb went on, and I suddenly realized that it was what I wanted to do. And in those days you had to belong to a union, so I was sent back to university to do a postgraduate diploma in journalism, and that was the beginning of my career. So I'm a fully trained journalist who then ended up obviously wanting to work on glamorous women's magazines, and carved my way out through magazines onto into the beauty department of magazines, into television, newspapers, and then actually right at the very last minute across social, across YouTube and Instagram. So yeah, that's me. I've been around a very long time.
Nadine, I had no idea that you did a Bachelor's of Science for your undergrad. What did you study?
I did psychology.
Oh, interesting.
But it was enough. It was enough for me to have enough of a background in biochemistry and stats to. It's actually held me in really good standing. It gives me just enough of a questioning mind to and then we'll get into this, right, when we talk about science or marketing in beauty as well. I'm that annoying person when somebody gives me a marketing presentation and a graph and I go, sorry, what's on the X and Y axis? I'm that annoying person.
Lena, would you like to go next?
Sure, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm excited to be joining the group here today. So I'm Lena Peely. My current role, I'm a B2B or business-to-business segment marketing manager at Clariant for our personal care portfolio, specifically for specialty ingredients. So my main responsibilities are helping to create and execute our marketing strategy. So what this means, it's various things like gathering market insights and trends from our customer level and ingredient level, but also down to the consumer level, building brand awareness, working with like our sales and technical colleagues to nurture leads, and then managing marketing communications as well. Our team and we typically work closely with a large variety of brands and customers across the personal care industry. So that's kind of what I currently do in a nutshell.
And last but not least, Eva, would you like to go next?
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me today. So my career is a bit is in B2B as well and in marketing. My background has been working on the media side or the event side, actually. I started working with the Cosmoprof event when I joined the beauty industry, and I was helping them invite buyers from different countries in the world. And from then doing events, I went into media. I was working with Premium Beauty News, B2B website. I was in charge of marketing and business development. And now I have developed Ressource, which is my own platform to help beauty brands understand sustainability and actually marketing claims. And so, as you can see, I've always been into the B2B side of the marketing communication. And actually, I've always been in touch with the ingredient suppliers, for instance, or packaging suppliers who will be my clients when I was working with them in Premium Beauty News, for instance. And now with the focus I have, it's more about helping beauty brands understand marketing claims and being more accurate when they talk about environment, I guess.
So you've all kind of alluded to the answer here, but I'll ask it anyways. Can you describe what you do in your career? And Nadine, would you like to go first again?
Yeah, I guess what I've most specialized in is trying to be a skincare educator. I became a journalist because I was fundamentally nosy. I became a beauty journalist because for me it was that perfect blend of science and art. But actually, it's the skincare science I'm most interested in. And in an explosive world of brands, I mean, I remember a time when there were probably maybe 20 key skincare brands, and now there's thousands and thousands of them. I feel the consumer is just overwhelmed. And so I'm here to hold their hand and try to make their journey into well-formulated skincare that works, because I believe it can work, just a little easier.
Lena, would you like to go next?
Yep, absolutely. So I've always been in the consumer care side, so either home or personal care. I'm pretty passionate about this industry. I've been in it for over 12 years. So I've been on both the technical and commercial sides and business sides. So where I currently am, I would say it's been kind of a culmination of a lot of experiences I've had to really work closely with the other segments on my team to gather market intelligence, really synthesize insights together, and really work on like business development. So I think it's just all about building relationships within the industry to whether it's creating brand new innovation projects or identifying problems to formulations and things like that. So really my job and my current role is specifically helping to problem solve and innovate within this space of personal care.
And last but not least, Eva.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting because all over my career, I've always been interested in making technical language understandable to the masses, to everybody. And because in the last 15 years, I've been focusing on, explaining the new innovations coming from the supply side, from ingredient supplier, what Lena has just said, that she's trying to, to build content from the trends that she identifies and bring that to the market, to the brands. What I've always been really keen to do in every job I had was to make something very technical, very specific, and very difficult, understandable and digestible, I guess. And now I'm focusing on sustainability because I found that when it comes to sustainability, it's really hard to understand what to do. So the way I do that, I do a lot of research, a lot of interviews with specialists like ingredient suppliers or packaging suppliers, and I ask them, okay, if you manufacture this ingredient, what is the impact on the environment? What does it do? And my question is always like, what do you mean? What does this mean? And how does it impact the market? And so basically from all this research, this interview, reading trend report and all of that, I build content that I show onto the platform and that I give to beauty brands, because at the end, I want to equip beauty brands to talk to the consumers so that they know what to say and what word consumers will understand. So I've always found that even if I change jobs or I had different activities, I've always tried to, what I understand from me for marketing and communications, it means to make something understandable, something technical, digestible, I guess. And whether you do it through events, through social media, obviously the day-to-day job involves a lot of like understanding Instagram and all of that now. So what I'm trying to do, like you do, Jen, obviously on Instagram, is like educating as well, explaining everything. So, and I think there's more and more of us, and I don't want to talk for Lina or Nadine here, but I think most of our job is to making something difficult understandable, I guess. Yeah.
And now, just like the previous panel, if anyone in the audience has questions for our panelists, feel free to raise your hand and I can bring you to the stage. If you're not comfortable with that, then feel free to put your question in the webinar chat text channel, and I will ask your question after I finish the questions that I have planned. So my next question for each of you guys is, and you have all kind of alluded to this, but how did you get to where you are? Was there specific educational requirements, and how did you move up your career ladder? Nadine, would you like to start again?
I mean, to be honest, there are no specific educational requirements to be a journalist. I am old enough, as I said, as I alluded right at the beginning, that when I first worked on a magazine, they had to send me back to university because we had to be a member of what was then the National Union of Journalists in the UK. And so you needed formal training. So I went back and did a postgraduate diploma in magazine journalism. But actually, I've worked across all forms of legacy media. So I've worked in newspapers, magazines, both weekly and monthly, across television and radio. And most of the training is actually done on the job, so to speak. So you start at the bottom and work your way up. And if you're enthusiastic and you're hungry to learn, you can acquire all the skills that way. So my advice to people trying to get into my industry, which is becoming increasingly difficult as legacy media is having so much trouble surviving, would be to try and just get your foot in the door in terms of any job experience you can get, any work experience you can get, utilize as many contacts as you can, and write in your own spare time. I mean, I love writing, I love communicating. That's really my passion, and I can actually acquire skills to help me do that and then just apply that to any subject. It just, for me, beauty happens to be the subject that I was most passionate about, and I think it was because it was that perfect blend of science and art that I really enjoyed. And I had actually written as a features writer, and I still write as a features writer nowadays. So it's just a question of finding a subject that I was passionate about, and then literally learning on the job, having some mentors over the years who took me under their wing and taught me the basics of writing and producing, landing in a TV studio with zero experience and just being forced to survive, basically. It's the best way. It's that sort of fake it till you make it thing. So I'm comfortable now in front of the camera, and that's why it was a relatively easy transition for me to move into YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all those sort of things when they became video platforms. So no, you don't need I would always suggest to anybody do journalism at university if you get the opportunity, but it's absolutely not necessary. I have colleagues who started off literally as the PA in the office to the marketing person or to the advertising person and work their way across. I think if you have that hunger for knowledge and experience, you'll work your way up no matter what.
Now, I wonder, just to do an add-on for the question that I asked you here, I wonder if, with how competitive things are right now in light of the not as many jobs available and everything else that's happening in the journalism space, do you think that it would be a good idea for young people who want to become beauty journalists to maybe start a blog or a social media channel?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I would recommend. I think if you're passionate about writing and you're passionate about educating and you're passionate about communications, which are the things you have to be passionate about to be a journalist, then my advice would be always to start a blog, start your own platform, start your own content, whatever you need to do, just get your voice heard out there. And that's how, I suppose, in a way, the new generation are coming up now. They're coming up via Instagram, even via TikTok, dare I say, which isn't necessarily an educational platform for most people, but most people will have a blog. And my advice would be don't put all your eggs in one basket. So make sure you're multi-platform, make sure you're more than one platform, because you don't want to put all of your career in somebody else's hands. But there is nothing like legacy media. There is nothing like getting on television, radio, or traditional newspapers or magazines. It is still incredibly well respected by marketeers and brands in the UK, certainly. And what they want people to do is they want people to have as many outlets for your education and their products as possible. But it's a tough one. I mean, I guess part of me says I'm glad I did it when I did it, and I'm not sure I'd really recommend it to most people nowadays, because there are just fewer pages being created. There are more digital print pages being created than ever before, but they tend to be clickbait. They tend to be quite dumbed down. They tend to be not investigative and not in depth. And so it's harder for a true journalist to make a career than it's ever been before.
Lena, would you like to go next? If you're talking, you may be muted.
Were you asking me to go next? Sorry.
Yes, I was.
Okay, sorry. I thought you were okay. Yep, no problem. So for me, I wanted to echo the sentiment that really having that hunger to keep on learning and that drive to keep expanding your knowledge. I think that's what has helped me get to where I am in my career. So one of the first things I'll say is that I don't think there was a specific education that was required. So I went to school for biology and chemistry as my bachelor's degree, and I wasn't like 100% sure, like, yeah, cosmetics was the industry that I was definitely going to end up in. I actually started off the lab bench on the home care side, which was great experience and a lot of fun. Then I got the opportunity to grow as a formulation chemist on the personal care side. And I got exposed further to interactions with customers, trade industry events and things like that. And I got very interested in the commercial and marketing side. So I went through various roles to kind of build my experience. And one of the key things that I did across my roles, across the different companies that I was at, was really just kind of being open to taking on a project, learning something a little bit outside of your box, asking questions. I think that really helps. It helps you to build your own portfolio as you're kind of trying to guide yourself to where you want to be in your career. So I don't think there's a specific like, I'm not officially marketing trained originally. I mean, I went back to like start taking some MBA classes and things like that. But essentially a lot of it is on the job training, seeking out people, not being afraid to ask questions. I also highly recommend industry groups and associations are great resources for learning, building your network, and also just kind of building your knowledge about what's out there in the industry. Because I mean, there are programs out there, I think, specifically catered now for the cosmetics industry, especially if you're interested in marketing and business as well. But a lot of the experience that comes with working in the industry will kind of help you figure out where and what you want to do. And it's just about being open to that.
Now, I have a feeling some, at least, of the audience maybe isn't aware of the dynamic in the cosmetics industry between like ingredient suppliers. So Lena works for an ingredient supplier to brands, and maybe how different marketing roles may differ, where one might have to be able to communicate to cosmetic scientists, whereas another would be communicating to consumers. Ingredient suppliers for the former and brands on the latter. So I just have a follow-up question for you, Lena. So if somebody was wanting to work for an ingredient supplier, whether it's with something that you do, like marketing management or technical sales, do they need to have a science background? Would that be something helpful, or is it something not needed? What would be like a step to like get your foot in the door there?
That's a great question. So I would say it's not necessarily 100% necessary, but I will say, so for me, I had a technical background and then worked my way over to the marketing side. Apologies, my tongue. And so as I was saying, where was I? Sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure she wasn't bothering you guys. My bad. Yeah, so absolutely. I think that I think it just depends on where you want to on where you want to go first. But I would say the education required, if it is for the marketing side, you don't necessarily need it to be in technical sales, for example, but it helps to have that background. So I would say if you don't have that background, there's plenty of resources within the industry to learn, to get more additional information, and to kind of brush up on your specific portfolio of things that you would be responsible for. So I just think it's about the eagerness to, the willingness to learn, really.
And then last but not least, Eva, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, it's funny because I've always been interested in marketing and communications. And actually, I think people should try a bit more into that field. And I've always been frustrated in my career that people thought that actually you can just jump the ship, and then just, even if you have no training, you can become a marketing specialist. I think it's true if you are like a technician, like as Lina explained, that she had she was more technical in the field, I guess, and then she was able to make this more, into a role. On my side, I did train as a marketing specialist from very early on in my career, but maybe also I'm French, and I know that in France we tend to go to training into the job we want to do. For me, I always wanted to work in advertising or marketing because I strongly believe that we can change culture through good marketing. Marketing is used often for promotion or making people buy new things, but I also believe that marketing can actually change cultures. And so that's why, to me, it's important to train in marketing, because there's many, many aspects to marketing today. And actually, doing marketing on social media or for a brand, as you just said, Jen, is very different than doing marketing for a super ingredient supplier, because you're not talking to the same audience, you're not having the same specificity in your language, I guess. So I would recommend people to train because, to me, there's many, many different way to communicate today. There is TikTok, there are all the social media, obviously, and these are very specific. You need to understand the algorithm, you need to understand how visual communication works, you need to have a bit of background on design, you need to understand many of things about marketing. You need to understand LinkedIn today if you want to be a good marketer on that platform as well, if you're on B2B. You need to understand, TV advertising. You need to understand many different types of messaging, I guess. And for me, the training in marketing will help you understand that. Because if you grow in your career, I don't know if you can relate to that, Lina or Nadine, but you have to learn to train yourself all the time anyway, because the new communication style are changing. There's always a new social media out there, always something new coming in, and you can learn on the go, but you will be much quicker if you learn from a specialist or from someone who's already trained, actually. So I would recommend to... how would I say? For me, you need to pick a field. You need to pick something that you really like. Would you like to do consumer marketing? Would you like to do professional marketing? Would you like to do technical marketing? You need to pick your field, and then from that field, go into specific, school or university or something that will help you in that. Lina, did you want to add something?
I was just gonna chime in and say that I completely agree with you. I mean, having that flexibility is really key to figuring out like which field you want to go in. I definitely kind of echo what you just said. So I just I'm right on the same page.
yeah, thank you. I agree, because I found today marketing and it's so complicated that I think you need to train just to understand exactly what you want to do, because there's so many different fields. Like I include events in the marketing as well, because I did events in the beginning of my career. Now everything I do is more digital, but I do a lot of some events as well, because I think online events, even if they're digital, they're still events. So you need to know what you do about events, and the fact that you're trained in a specific field, you get so much quicker to do things because you already know the background kind of. You don't have to train on the go. That's what I would say between training on the go and learning. And about the second aspect of the question about how did I move up in my career, in the career ladder, and etc. For me, it's really important to make friends in the industry. And someone said something to me that just really resonated with me, and still to this day, don't make enemies. Like even if you don't like your boss, if you don't like your colleagues, or if there's something that's going wrong, never get angry at them, or never close the door in a sour relationship, because you might end up working with them again somehow. They might be your supplier, they might be your client one day. So don't make enemies and make friends, because you're going to grow with people that you're going to meet again maybe in your career, and they will help you. And I think today, in today's world, there's so many things happening around. I don't know about you, but you don't always find all the best jobs actually advertised. Some of them are just passed on to the network. So that's why if you have friends and if you keep relationship, but keep genuine relationship, I find this is the way to keep on going in your career, because someone might tell you, oh, I know that this person is leaving this company in 6 months' time because they have a plan to do this. Then if you know that someone can direct you to this job or whatever, so make friends. That's what I would say, and be genuine with them. Obviously, don't just make friends for the sake of like moving up the ladder. Yeah.
You end up finding out it's a small industry. It's when you work in personal care or whatever industry you end up in. That's totally true. It's a pretty small world. You'll come to find out.
Yeah, so don't make enemies.
Now we had a question that I think fits in really well, and reminder to the audience. And I know we've gotten some new audience members. If you have a question, raise your hand and I can bring you to the stage, or you can ask it in the webinar chat text channel. But this question was from Michelle Carrington, who asks, now this question was originally geared or directed to Lena, but I think this maybe is relevant to everyone. You mentioned joining industry groups and associations. Could you mention a few? And I would imagine there's ones for journalists as well. So I'm sure each of you have something to say here. Nadine, do you want to maybe start?
Yes. Actually, there aren't.
Oh, wow.
Associations for journalists. It's very interesting. The two in the UK that are most important if you want to work in this industry and you want to network and you want to make friends. And I agree completely with Lena and Eva. It's an incredibly small industry, so treat it with the respect it deserves. Even if you do fall out with somebody, you need to smile and move on, because there is a very good chance you will work with them again. They are the CEW within the UK, which is the Cosmetics Executive Women, which is the English outlet or the UK outlet of the American arm. However, that is mainly marketeers and PRs. Journalists are invited to join, but it's not really a journalist's coven, so to speak. And then the other one is the British Beauty Council in the UK, that actually was set up in competition to the CEW. And that, to a degree, works for the people that work within the beauty industry in sales, marketing, retail, things like that. So actually there isn't a journalists collective within the beauty industry. However, we are all friends and colleagues. And even though we are in competition for work, we are very much a tight-knit group, and we do have each other's backs. So actually, journalists aren't that well organised anymore, and there is no union anymore. The National Union of Journalists was smashed in the late 80s and doesn't really have much of a backing anymore now. Hence the fact, I suppose, that journalism is a little bit of a dying career. But my advice would be, without a doubt, LinkedIn, find out what your local collective CEW, beauty-backed, British Beauty Council collective is. Try and join. When you join a company, either a PR or a marketing company, a retailer, you should find the person that's on the board there that is part of those groups, because they are super important when you're younger, and they are the places where you're going to meet the most powerful people, and you are going to meet your next boss there and your next working colleague there. So they are important.
Lena, do you have anything to add? Or Eva, I see your mic is off. Oh, now both
Yeah,
of you are. Sorry.
I agree. I'm based in the UK as well, and the CWW is definitely a big one to go, to attend to. In France, there is the same organization as well. I don't know if there's any French listeners here, but there's also the Young Professional in Beauty in France. They've started a network of young professionals, and they gather together and they give each other's career advice and they're working. So this is really good. And also something we didn't actually mention, but going to trade shows. Often at trade shows, a lot of conferences and get together or events as well. And this is a good way to meet a lot of people as well, actually. It's not a trade association per se, but it's a good place to meet people.
So I'm going to chime in here. First of all, Cosmetic Executive Women here in the US, definitely recommend people check that out. I know there's I believe there's a fee to join, but if you're with a company, I think you can really advocate that it's a very valuable group to be a part of. They have a lot of events, webinars, educational speaking events, industry people that give talks. I think there's a lot of resources there. And if you aren't a member, I know they do publish a lot of really great articles about what's going on in the industry and stuff. My recommendation, especially if you are learning about the industry, so for here in the US, Society of Cosmetic Chemists. So even if you're not a chemist or in the technical background, there's many chapters. There's a national chapter, but then there's also different chapters for the Northeast, Southeast, all the different areas here. We have annual trade shows like Suppliers Day, both on the New York side and on the West Coast as well. This is where so there are a lot of suppliers that go there, but then also it's a great place to network because there's a lot of brands, people from companies like your big name companies like P&G and Unilever, Estee Lauder. They're going there to see what the latest and greatest innovations are. And then there's also your up and coming brands as well, scouting out ideas and new launches. So it's a great place where, yes, there's a lot of technical people, but there's also brand managers and a lot of educational opportunities as well. There's often courses they have at these events that you can take. And depending on what event you're looking at, it might be, some of them are free, which is great. And maybe some of them have a smaller fee, but there's a lot of, I know that I have utilized them a lot and continue to, even at this point in my career, to continue to learn, and also a great place to meet people. So I highly recommend, if you're interested in the personal care industry, to look into the SEC as one of your resources. Oh, and they also post, I know it's also a source to look at job openings and things like that.
Now I have one more question for you guys before I start accepting questions from the audience. Julia, Ruby, you will be first. But my final question is, for someone aspiring to have a similar career as you, do you have any recommendations? Nadine, would you like to go first?
So I would pick up the point that you made earlier on, Jen, that is if you're passionate about education and communicating and learning and passing that knowledge on, then you'll do that in whatever format you can. So you will have a blog. I think I know so many really excellent people who have taught themselves on the job, really, and because they couldn't have the opportunity to work in magazines or newspapers because those positions are really limited, and often it is based around nepotism. I actually broke the mold slightly because I came from a working class background. It can be a very much a sort of middle class, career in magazines. Then my advice would be to start a blog, start your own Instagram channel, find out what's unique about you, what's unique about your point of view and what you want to try and get across to your audience, and stay true to that. And often that actually will segue back into legacy media. They should both work both ways now. So legacy media should feed into digital media and vice versa. Most of the opportunities actually will come on digital platforms that belong to legacy media. So the most successful legacy newspapers and magazines now have really huge digital platforms, and they are hungry for information. So if you can prove yourself to be adept at learning, absorbing, sort of communicating that in short, sharp, snappy digital ways, you will find yourself in employment, because that beast, that digital beast, is so much hungrier than the traditional legacy media companies ever were. So in some ways there are more opportunities, probably less in terms of making a solo career on a single platform, but my advice would be to multi-platform across.
Lena, would you like to go next?
Sure. So my recommendation is a few things. I would say I think it kind of builds on what we've been saying, but being flexible and open to continuing to learning, building relationships and connections, taking on, if you've seen opportunity to take on a project or something, make it your own with suggestions and proposals. I think people appreciate confidence. So it also will only help you. So confidence that, you can do it with your skill set, and that what you don't know, that you can continue to learn it along the way. So I definitely think those are key things that have helped me in my career. I know it sounds kind of like high level, but it's the truth. Like, I think just being open, stepping outside the box, and just being confident and taking that next step, even if you don't think you check every box, because if you wait, like, you're not always going to check every box, but if you're willing to learn and you're passionate about it, that'll help you get so far.
I would say,
sorry, last but not least.
Yeah. I would say just to get a job, get a job. If you know what after you've listened to us, or after you've done some research as well and studied a bit more, just get a job, get an internship, and get it until you annoy people and contact them on LinkedIn or wherever you can, or try your network, or try as many people as you can to get a job in the place, wherever that is, if it's for a brand or for like an ingredient supplier or like another type of company. Just try to get a job in there. Try to open as many doors as you can, so you can get a foot in the door. And then once you're in the door, then it's your responsibility to keep going into the job. But there's nothing like having your first experience and then going from there.
Maybe I'll just chime in from my perspective. While I was in university, I had a little bit of a time period where I worked as a science writer, but I got into it based off of the recommendation of one of my professors. I started a science blog, and then I built like a portfolio, and I just kept trekking along and then building my portfolio, building my knowledge from looking at research and science writing. And then I got jobs as a science writer. So just trekking along on social media. I feel like with the internet, there's a real opportunity I know for young people, it's really disheartening with everyone wants 2 years of experience these days. So like, how do you create that experience? I just think getting on social media is a really great opportunity to create your own experience. Julia Ruby, first person up on the stage today. Would you like to ask your question or make your comment?
Yeah, firstly, I just want to apologize if my internet's a bit choppy, but my question is, it's kind of about journalism, but I would love to hear from all the panelists what their thoughts are. Nadine, I know you've spoken a little bit in the past about pestering brands to disclose more information about a product, whether it's about the clinical data backing a product or about formulation, when you feel like they're maybe not providing you with all the information that would be relevant for your coverage of the product. How do you go about that, like approaching brands and asking them for more information, and maybe if you could speak on like forming relationships with brands where they are more happy to disclose extra information to you. And I guess for the other panelists, Lena, if you have any advice on like approaching ingredient suppliers for information that is intended to be published, because I know a lot of time ingredient suppliers will disclose information to chemists if they sign a non-disclosure agreement, but that's not really useful from a journalism perspective. And maybe Eva, if you could comment on like how would you like a journalist to approach you if they were asking for more information about a brand you were working with?
I'm smiling at that question because I think I have a reputation as being slightly difficult in presentations because I don't take things at face value. But trust me, that came through years of experience. There was probably the first 15 years of my life when I didn't have the courage to ask the question, because in those days it would just be sort of 25, 30 of us, the key magazines and newspapers. And everybody knew everybody. It was a very, very small industry, very, very elitist industry as well, difficult to get into. And you have to earn your stripes. I earned my stripes. You know, I worked my way up through the magazines and the newspapers. And then when I was on a really reputable magazine, probably Marie Claire, it would have been, or the Daily Mail at the time before it had an online presence. They were very well respected, and I started to do really in-depth reporting, and that's when I started asking the difficult questions. However, I would say that I have a reputation for asking the difficult questions, but within a safe space. And I'll say that because I will never call out a brand on social media. And I have compatriots who will happily do it, who feed on that controversy, and I don't. I'll give you a perfect case in point. I was asked to do some work recently with Olay when they launched their new retinol, intense retinol. And I just went back on email and said, this is really interesting. This is a brand I know and I trust. I know some of your formulators really well. I need to know what percentage your new retinols are going to be, because other brands that you're competing against are being really transparent in their percentages of retinols. And while the average consumer might believe extra strength, my followers will want to know what extra strength is. And they came back and said, I'm really sorry, we're not disclosing the information. Now, I expect that from many other brands. For example, Elizabeth Arden, Rock do not disclose the percentages of the retinols in their products. But when you're going up and talking about an extra strength retinol and you're up against somebody like No. 7, and then maybe to a degree you're up against somebody like Paula's Choice, you're going to need to be transparent. So what I did was I just went back to them and said, I appreciate this opportunity. You know, I trust this brand. You know, I've got Olay's back. But if you can't disclose the retinol percentages, I can't then follow through with your marketing argument that is you've increased the retinols. I understand that you probably launched at 0.3% and you've gone up, but until you're prepared to disclose that information, I can't really write about this honestly to my followers. However, at that point, I stopped the conversation and politely declined to talk about the products, unless somebody specifically asked me within DMs. But there were lots of people that went for that brand hard, saying, come on, the minute you say you're not going to be open and honest, it feels to me like you're lying. What have you got to hide? That sort of thing. And that's not me. I'm properly old school trained, and I would never do that. I'm not in this industry for the fight. I'm really not. So I would never do that. So brands know me, they trust me, they know I'm demanding. I've been around the block a long time, but they also know that some of the things they tell me and some of the things we discuss are not to be made public. And the fact that I've made this public is in no way disrespectful to Olay. I respect their decision, but they also respect my decision. And I actually went back to them and I said, just to let you know that No. 7 are being completely open about the 3 new retinol products they've launched, and they're discussing coverage with me, and they're talking about their percentages. So how you want to move forward from that is up to you. And I've had the same discussion with brands who've actually told me what percentages retinol they use and then actually don't want me to disclose that information, and I haven't disclosed that information. So it's a little bit like going back to Eva's original point, that is, this is a small industry. You really do not want to upset people. I know that people make careers out of upsetting people in this industry, but it's not me, because ultimately I love and respect this industry and I'm passionate about it. But you have to ask respectfully and politely, but you have to persevere. And at this point, I feel like I need to bring in all the brands that I've ever upset in my life. I hope there wouldn't be that many of them, but I'm laughing at that question.
So Lena here, and I'll chime in from the ingredient perspective. So first of all, I think that when people are asking questions about, to brands or to ingredients about a newly launched product, oftentimes, yes, there's going to be a set of there's going to be a technical profile and information about the ingredient that's going to be out there for public consumption. And depending on how widely launched this product is, there's different levels of information that are readily available. So sometimes if there's like already an agreement in place with certain customers or something, maybe that's what could preclude certain levels of information being shared. But I will say the whole industry, I think one of the key movements happening is the move towards definitely more transparency. So the fact that consumers can try to look up information or wanting that information at their fingertips, whether they're shopping online or researching brands, and then in the end seeing the whole life cycle of where did that product come from, what company manufactured that ingredient, where is it sourced from. It's becoming more and more important. So I think a lot of suppliers, I can't speak for all suppliers, but a lot of key suppliers that are working with brands know that it's important. We know it's important to our customers that the more that we can share to the media, to the brands that are going to use it in their products, the more helpful that will be in helping out the consumer at the end of the day who decides to buy it or not. So I will say that it's definitely something that's moving towards the more information that's readily available, the better. So I think a lot of companies, including our own, I think they know the importance of being able to be open. So if you come to us with questions, we welcome them, and I think it's just whatever we're able to answer. We want to be able to share that because that's important at the end of the day for what's going into the products.
Hello. To answer on the last question about how I'd like brands or people to be approached, I guess like Nadine suggested, like to have just a direct email or direct question. And now what I recommend to brand actually as well, and what Nadine and Lina just explained as well, is like to be transparent in their answers. I would never recommend a brand to answer like we can't disclose this, we can't tell that anymore, because if it's a marketing claim, you need to back it up and you need to be able to substantiate the marketing claim. So I think you need to allow people to be direct to you. The thing that I noticed that is everybody is very busy right now. We receive a lot of emails. So I would say that if you don't receive an email directly, an answer by email, try Instagram or try other network to be able to get an answer that you need, I guess, without being too pushy, but obviously just being direct and polite.
I agree. I'm going to jump in there, and I would say that's the best bit of advice you will ever get from anybody that works in marketing, is that we've been through a fundamental revolution in skincare, thanks to Brandon Truax, in the sense that we've gone from being about the mystique and the mystery and the magic of skincare to having this ingredients-led revolution. And we could argue a whole host of other stories about whether this is a good or a bad or an indifferent thing for the industry. But I don't think we can go, the genie's out of the bottle, and I don't think you can go back to it. And I think that even if the audience is relatively small, so for example, my audience would be small compared to the average Olay consumer, I do believe that the the influencers that are driving most skincare coverage nowadays will want backup information to all marketing claims. There's something a little bit shifty about not sharing information with people. It doesn't necessarily mean that the brand are in any way lying or deceiving people, but it seems that if you're going to launch a retinol and then a year later launch an extra strength retinol, you should be asked the question, what percentage retinol you have in your product? It's a really basic question. And I felt so sorry for the PR, because you could tell she had been tasked with telling everybody that they were not going to share that information. And she was probably, like most people nowadays in PR, incredibly young and with nobody to, probably working from home and with nobody to go back to and ask for advice from. She was completely out of her depth. And if you think those WhatsApp groups aren't going around amongst those journalists saying, has anybody found what percentage this new product is? We all speak to each other, we all share information. And I think that the best piece of information you can give to any marketeer is to say to them, just be transparent and be really honest and answer the question clearly. Because if you have faith in a product and faith in a brand, and there are so many amazing brands out there now creating incredible products, you should have nothing to hide.
Yeah, and the truth will come out anyway. It will come out. Somebody will tell, or you will know it after a few months or something. So it will come out. There's no need to hide. And as you said, even if brands are not trying to lying or to hide something, there's a tension in there that you think, what are they lying? Why can't they just be transparent about this? If they're claiming it in the marketing, it's because they, maybe they have done something. So why wouldn't they? So yeah, I agree with you. And maybe it's a recommendation in your career as well to, and this is the thing that I've noticed in the last few years, actually. I don't know if you agree with that, but with the impact of the influencers and social media and all of that, there's a push from the bottom to the higher classes, because before you would have the direction, the management would say, you can promote this, you can communicate about that, and that's it. But now even the younger generation are pushing for the brands, or for people, or younger generation working for brands, working inside the brands, are pushing for more transparency as well. So it's no longer the boss that make the decision and the management of the company that make the decision anymore. You, as a newcomer and as a new member of the team, you have a say as well. And because what I find is, like, the older generation, like above 35, also they didn't grow up as younger generation, where they have social media everywhere and they know everything. So we understand now, and this is my understanding personally, that we need all generation to work together. It's no longer one against the other. And I think as a younger generation, there are more chances now that you have a voice and you can raise your voice, I would say. I don't know if it's a correct advice, but yeah, try.
Well, really great question.
Thanks, everyone. Those were great answers.
And a great question. Thank you so much for coming up to the stage. And reminder, if you guys have questions, you can also come up to the stage or ask it in the webinar chat text channel. We've had a few really great questions come in. Another question from Michelle, who asks, I own my copywriting business. I help businesses with their messaging strategy and copywriting needs. I want to niche down into the beauty industry. My first love and passion, more specifically, I want to work with up-and-coming brands. However, I am under the impression that most beauty brands have their in-house marketing, copywriting teams or work exclusively with agencies. Do opportunities exist for solopreneurs? Do you have any insight into that? What steps would you recommend someone like me follow?
Shall I go first? I know a couple of beauty copywriters, and you're absolutely right, Michelle. They work in-house or they work for specific agencies. There are a few journalists that are copywriters. There are, within the UK, we did have a large copywriting department at a couple of PR agencies. One of the most common things that people get to do is they get to take international copy, PR materials and marketing materials, and make it more local focus. So, for example, we'll get a lot of stuff out of, say, a L'Oreal Group or Dior or Chanel, and then we have to have it translated and made more applicable for the UK market. And that's something that actually does go out to a lot of agencies and a lot of freelancers. But how you make that original connection, I'm not sure, unless it's directly going to the marketing department. And it is actually always the marketing department now. When I first started in the industry, PR agencies, PRs, in-house PRs and PR agencies used to report into general managers, but nowadays they all report into the marketing department. So I would go directly to the marketing directors of each of the individual companies and ask to be approved to work within their remit. So they have approved companies that they're allowed to work with. I see no reason why that shouldn't be an independent company, because it certainly is at the moment independent journalists that can do copywriting for brands and independent PRs that have copywriting departments. So I don't understand why it wouldn't be. In fact, I have a friend that would love to set up exactly that. She's an ex-Vogue beauty director, and she went to work for a company called Beauty Scene and set up their copywriting division, and that's exactly what she ended up doing. She's now at Beauty Pie. She's head of global communications at Beauty Pie, but absolutely I could see a future where she could end up setting up on her own. So I see no reason why you shouldn't, but I'd be very interested for Eva's take on that.
Oh yes, for some of the brands I know, and the thing is like they're all looking for help. So if you can find indie brands that are at the initial stage of their businesses, and they usually work with freelancers actually on a like 1 day a week or like maybe less than that, and then you grow with them. I would say, and usually when indie beauty brands they work closely together, so they know each other, they're in a close network, and when they find someone that is working really well for them, they can recommend it to someone else if they need. Just to give you an example, I'm part of a WhatsApp group with like a small entrepreneur, and they all we all exchange people we work with and freelancers and stuff like that. So then these people end up working more time than just a day or something. So yeah, there are some groups. I don't know how to get into that though. I would say try to find the founder. Usually the founder is the one that is making the decision, and contact them, I guess, directly on LinkedIn or something like that, or Instagram, and say to them, look, I'm a copywriter, I'm specializing in this, I can help you, my day rate is this. Be very specific on your email, and then maybe you will like get an answer, or this message will be sent to someone else that would need you. So yeah, I'm sure indie beauty brands are in need of that. And when they are younger, they don't necessarily have a budget for an agency, so they might work with people like you actually. Sorry, I hope I was a bit mumbling. Was that okay?
That was a great answer from both of you. Lena, I don't know if you would have something to add.
The only thing I have to add is whether you're working with an up-and-coming brand or another player in the personal care industry. I know like here in my group, in the marketing group, like we work with different agencies, but we also work with like independent folks as well. So I don't see working like that as a barrier at all. I definitely agree with what the other two ladies have said here today, to definitely reach out, whether it's through LinkedIn, find out who's in their market. A lot of times it is through their marketing group. Like I work very closely with communications, and then, together we work with like other outside groups or folks. So definitely there's a lot of opportunity there.
And then another question from Lazy Panda, who asks, I have a question regarding the trust people put on marketing claims. I see the same people who believe and trust a company that say they have a quote unquote clean product, whatever that means, be very suspicious towards other companies that promote, for example, sustainability. How do you cope with this different behavior coming from the same pool of people?
I feel that's one for you, Eva.
Yeah. I want to answer about that. I think it's interesting. I think there's a bit of, how can I say, schizophrenia in the beauty industry right now, because people want to do good, but they are lacking the backup to do good. So basically, marketing people are still dependent on the CEOs, CFOs, and all these people. So when they make a decision, when they make a claim, they still need to make revenue and to make money. And so I think they focus on the money making and to make money, you need to short on your claim. You need to make more snappier claim instead of being more educational and more. And when you look at the market, there's still a big trend of like shouting the loudest and being the biggest. And so, and if you want to be sustainable, you need to be a bit smaller in your claims. You need to shout a bit less and then explain a bit more and be more, have longer messaging, etc. I think if there's a difference in reality right now, because there's still a need to make revenue and to make money, and that's why people are stretched between being honest and making money. And until this is resolved, I don't think we're going to see a reunite of this claim, the sustainable claim. I'm really educating. I'm trying to work hard with brands to educate them. But honestly, they don't go far enough into their own education to be able to make better claims. That's why I'm doing it. I'm doing resource and I'm doing what I'm doing right now. Because I think there's still a superficial understanding of what sustainability means. And that's probably why they don't do a better marketing claim, but they're trying. And I'm thinking within the next 6 months or a year time, it would be better. But we're still at this place where we still have to make money. So that's why we go, we make compromises, I guess. Does it make sense?
Absolutely makes sense to me. I don't know if anyone else on the panel has anything to add here.
Just I guess a quick comment from me. The phrase or the term clean beauty. I mean, I think myself and probably others on this panel too could talk about it all day. But clean beauty, there's, it's right. You're right to put it in quotes because it can mean so many different things. There's different perceptions of how a brand is positioning itself as a clean brand, or what ingredients are in it are clean, or the steps that they use to manufacture it are clean, the sourcing, etc. So clean beauty is, there's no standard. There's no one set standard across the industry. So I think that also makes it kind of challenging. So I think the educational piece is really important. I think as a supplier, we do our best to try to, we know what our job is also to know what the consumer wants. So trying to give as much information and leaning into that need for transparency, I think it continues to be important. And that education piece, really, there's, information will come out, and consumers, if they don't have the full picture, they can go and run with it and can get, maybe an incorrect picture of what the good and the bad of what a product or ingredient does. So I think the more information that we share in all the different parts of this value chain is important to help those consumers at the end of the day and help change our industry.
I mean, I agree completely with both panelists. Education is incredibly important across both subjects. I think sustainability will be the claim that we all need to move forward on in an open, transparent and educational way, because it has true implications for all of us moving forward within the beauty industry. And it's a huge, and what Eva's doing is super important. It's a massive, massive, massive task for the beauty industry to undergo. And I think there is this marketing drive to say that we've solved problems now in the short term. And actually, I think if you're an intelligent, engaged consumer, you realize that this is not going to be a short-term goal. This is going to be a long-term aim that's going to be really slow and steady wins the race. The recent controversy around all of the beauty recycling, and realizing that most of the stuff that we're trying to recycle maybe isn't being recycled, and then the TerraCycle investigation doesn't help. But actually, I just think if the companies that are trying to do what they're doing sustainability wise are just transparent, and they hold their hands up and say, look, we're not perfect, but we're trying our best, I think you're going to get the consumer on your side really easily. Clean beauty, however, is a completely different animal. And the problem with clean beauty is that the consumer is wrong to demand clean beauty. It's the tail is wagging the dog in this situation, and we need more scientists to stand up and to basically expose clean beauty for the marketing hype it is, in my opinion.
I feel like we're all in agreement there. So if no one else in the audience has any questions, last chance, ask your questions in the webinar chat text channel. I'll ask my final question, which is, do you have any take-homes that you'd want to leave all of our audience members with? Nadine, would you like to go first again?
Yeah, I'll go first. For all of the problems that the beauty industry might be going through at the moment, my experience of working as a journalist is it is the most inclusive, the most supportive, and in many ways the most creative industry that I've ever worked in. Now, bearing in mind my career is as a journalist, so it's not my primary industry to work in. But having worked across fashion and having worked across industry like the print industry, for example, which is where I first started out, I can say that the beauty industry is very inclusive, very supportive, very creative, very interesting. I think it's way ahead of the game in terms of sustainability than, say, for example, the fashion industry. I feel that at its heart, most brands are trying to do the right thing. And I think it's been a really exciting time to work in the beauty industry over the last 5 or 6 years, because I do think it has truly been democratized, and it's quite revolutionary what's happened, that high street skincare has never been, and high street beauty products have never been better than they ever have at this point. There is no us and them in terms of great beauty products now. That affordable, great, amazing products that work are available for everybody, and I'm really proud to champion that side of the industry, and I'm passionate about that side of the industry. And actually, you can't really say that about many other industries. So if you're listening to this, or you're interested in working in the beauty industry, I say go for it. I just think, and I'm not sure whether, and I'm going to say this now, and I'm not sure whether this is slightly controversial, and I'm not sure whether it's because it is mainly manned by, and this is going to be an oxymoron, women. But I find that a really positive aspect of the industry, that generally it is very supportive, very positive, and all of my friends are from the beauty industry, and I think that's an incredible thing to say. That I think a lot of people have friends for life that they have from school, but actually all of mine are from within this industry. So it's given me a great career and a whole host of friendships, and long may it continue.
Lena, do you want to go next?
Sure. I wanted to also say that I have made so many lifelong friendships from being in the personal care industry. I love it. I love it because it's so dynamic and interesting. No 2 days of mine are the same. There's of course, always going to be frustrating days, projects that run into hiccups, and there's always going to be something that's going to bring out some stress in you. But if you love what you do and the people you're around, I think it's all worth it. So I definitely think going into this field, personal care in general, but if you're interested in marketing specifically, what I love about it is that it has so many touch points across the value chain. So being able to work with and get insights on the end consumer. What are they looking to do? What's happening on social media? But then working all the way back to, the brands, the products, where are they being sourced from? The chemistry of what makes them tick and work and actually create these like amazing formulations. It's just, I feel like there's so many opportunities within this entire field, whether it's marketing or whether it opens a door for you to look at other areas. I definitely say keep your mind open. Definitely ask questions. You're going to find more people that are willing to share their story or give advice than not. So, reach out, whether it's through events like these that we're currently on right now, LinkedIn, and yeah, I think it's all positive, and definitely something to dive into if you're interested.
Yes, I agree. The beauty industry is very open and quite a positive industry, as you both mentioned. People are quite open and honest and very likely to help you if you need something. Even if they can't help you directly, they can put you in touch with somebody. So one of the takeaway I would say, like, try to find what really makes you tick. What is your thing that you want to wake up for in the morning, and then try to find a job in that, and then stick to that, and then show that to the next employer you're gonna have, the first employer you're gonna have. Like, tell them this is what you are made for. This is whatever it is that you have in you. Because, for instance, for me, I've always liked making something difficult understandable and digestible. And throughout my career, I've always done that. I when I see back when I started and now, I realize this is what I've always wanted to do. So what do you stand for? What makes you want to be alive, and what do you think you always feel you're doing already in your life? Because whatever you're going to do in your career it comes from your personality and from who you are. So what is already you are doing naturally today in your life, and that you can implement into your job, because you don't want to work too hard. You want to enjoy your work, and like you're going to work like it's like actually being in I don't know, like a leisure, because actually it's not so hard for you to do something because it's natural. So what is something you're good at, and then you can bring to somebody, because then you will make a difference. Because if you've got this skill, nobody else has that same skill, so you can bring that into your job. So and don't undermine yourself as well. Don't think you're not worth it, or you or someone is better than you. I think we all have somehow the imposter syndrome, and you're going to go through your career having this feeling maybe or something. So just don't let this undermine you or your skills. Just go for something. If you want something, just go and get it. Yeah, that's what I would say. So good luck to all of you, and hope we can meet you in your career in the beauty.
I think that was such a great note to end this conversation on. Thank you, Nadine, Lena, and Eva, for agreeing to donate your time and expertise on a Sunday to our Careers Ed Day. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you to our audience for tuning in. And I mentioned this at the beginning, but in case you weren't here at the beginning, this conversation has been recorded, and probably at the latest by tomorrow morning, all the conversations will be up on our blog and YouTube Notes channel. Thank you again. And reminder, the next panel starts at 1 p.m. and that's our Practitioner Roundtable. Also, if you have any questions for our current panelists, if you now go over to the webinar chat text channel, you can ask them there and continue the conversation there. Thank you so much.